The Hornets caused some mile-high mayhem, but once again, they are dealing with protocol issues. That's all ahead today on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
You are Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
This is the Locked On Hornets podcast. I'm Doug Branson. You can follow me on Twitter at Doug Branson LOH. No Walker Mail today. He is stuck in some of the travel issues that I'm sure a lot of people are going through right now. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. Prize Picks has the best NBA DFS prop game on the market. Check them out at prizepicks.com. A lot to talk about. If there were going to be any show that I wasn't going to be able to do with Walker, it would be this show because we've got plenty to get to. But before we do that, I just want to mention we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Local experts on the #1 daily sports podcast network. Thanks for making Locked On Hornets your first listen or maybe your first watch on YouTube. Every day we are free and available on all platforms. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and now on YouTube. A link to the YouTube channel is pinned, by the way, on our Twitter at Locked On Hornets. You can follow Walker Mail on Twitter at Walker Mail. You can follow me on Twitter at Doug Branson LOH. And then make sure you hit up the show Twitter account as well at Locked On Hornets. As I said, lots to talk about. We're going to begin with the news that we got on the protocol front. Miles Bridges and P.J. Washington entering the protocol. What does that mean for the Hornets as they finally look ahead to some home games coming off the road with a win against the Denver Nuggets? I want to talk about that win. Crazy fourth quarter. Got to get to some of the action there. That'll be coming up in the second part of the show. And then finally in the third part, we look to tonight's game against the Houston Rockets, a rematch. I believe the last game the Hornets have against the Houston Rockets this season. Houston getting an overtime victory against the Hornets and a lot of points scored in that game. So we'll look to see where the Rockets are now. They were in the middle of a huge winning streak when they beat the Hornets, or there was the beginning, I should say, of a huge winning streak. We'll see where they are now. But first, let's talk about this protocol news. Miles Bridges and P.J. Washington both entering the NBA's health and safety protocols. They are the 7th and 8th different player to enter the protocol this season. They join Cody Martin, who's been in the protocol since December 19th. All three will miss tonight's game against the Rockets. So first of all, what are the Hornets missing without Miles Bridges and P.J. Washington? Well, I mean, frankly, they're missing two huge pieces to their offense. I think, Miles can contribute on both ends of the floor, but P.J. Washington has just been red hot off the bench. His shooting has been crazy last 10 games. He's scored 11.8 points per game on 38.5% three-point shooting. We saw that three-point shooting on full display in the 17-point fourth quarter comeback against the Denver Nuggets. And so to be missing that is going to be difficult because we know, and I'll talk about this in the preview coming up, they're going to have to score a lot of points against the Houston Rockets, and to lose two of your bigger offensive contributors. Miles Bridges this season, he started off crazy strong, looked like a clear candidate for most improved for the season. Still, I think, has a chance at getting that, but cooled off, I think after the first 15 or so games, but it started to pick it up again in his last 10 games now, 19.4 points on 51% from the field, but still that 3-point percentage lagging a bit, 28.3% from three, but he was finding other ways to contribute, rebounding, passing. Miles Bridges' defense obviously has been doing a little bit of everything for the Charlotte Hornets, and they will certainly miss those contributions. So then the next question is, who steps up? Well, I think obviously you're going to see some more minutes for Jalen McDaniels, who played big minutes in that fourth quarter against Denver and helped propel the Hornets to a victory. You're going to maybe see some more of JT Thor. We got a little bit of a look at him last time the Hornets were dealing with the health and safety protocols. So maybe they look to go to some of these younger guys. I think Kelly Oubre is the obvious candidate to get a start against the Houston Rockets in place of Miles Bridges, but we'll see how James Borrego decides to shake up the lineup, because Kelly Oubre, his contributions off the bench, he was the leading scorer against the Denver Nuggets. There I go again, getting into my Denver Nuggets preview before we talk about that game in the second segment. So, this is something obviously that every team is dealing with. It seems like most every team is dealing with health and safety protocol issues. I think the Hornets are fortunate in that they have some experience already with this. They know what this is. They know what this whole thing is about, and they were resilient. I don't know that they didn't necessarily win a lot of ball games while they were missing 5 players due to protocols, but they were resilient. Players stepped up, and they found ways to make games competitive. Luckily, tonight's game against Houston, I think you're dealing with an opponent that is not necessarily as strong as some of the opponents that the Hornets were facing during that time that they had players missing from the protocol. So that's certainly a bonus for the Hornets. But every team's been dealing with these issues, and the Hornets luckily can call upon players. They have a whole G League team under contract, it seems like, and they've been able to call on those players before. So it puts them at a little bit more of an advantage than some of these teams across the league who are having to just pick players up from off the street, it seems like, or players that haven't played in a long time, get them to suit up, or have been playing in the G League but not necessarily in their system on their bench. So that's what's going on across the league. With the Hornets, you have an opportunity to get some of these young players more run. Obviously it's going to help them if they stay with the team, but also it could help in terms of showcasing these players for possible trade packages. And should mention that too as an impact on future trade prospects. P.J. Washington going to miss probably at least 10 days, maybe 5 days. The NBA is shifting around protocols, and there are different sort of milestones that you have to hit to get back into action. So for the Hornets, hopefully they get these players back quickly. But P.J. Washington has been the name when it comes to trade packages. Where, what do you start with? And it seems it all starts with P.J. Washington. And that makes a lot of sense because, as I said at the opening of this segment, he's playing some of his best basketball right now. And so, I think that may limit the Hornets' options as they head into this trade deadline. But it is, hopefully only maximum 10 days. And Cody Martin went on the protocol on December 19th, so they could be quickly reintegrating Cody Martin, who has shown an ability to play small, to play big, can play guard, can play forward, and that's going to give Borrego a little bit of flexibility as he tries to deal with the loss of 2 major pieces. All right, coming up in the second segment, I do want to get into this crazy. I would have started the show with it because it was so nuts. 17-point comeback in the fourth quarter. I would have started the show with that if not for this protocol news. So definitely want to get into that. But first, I want to talk about Truebill. Truebill is the new app that helps you identify and stop paying for subscriptions you don't need, want, or simply forgot about. On average, people save up to $720 a year with Truebill. You know why free trials renew without your consent? It's a business scam out to get you. Don't let those greedy corporations pocket your hard-earned money. Download Truebill to take control of your subscriptions. Companies make subscriptions hard to cancel. It's part of the deal. Truebill makes it incredibly simple, though. Just link your accounts and Truebill will cancel your unwanted subscriptions in one tap. And your Truebill concierge is there when you need them to cancel unwanted subscriptions, so you don't have to. Don't fall for subscription scams. Start canceling today at Truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. Go right now, Truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. It could save you thousands of dollars a year. Who doesn't want that? Truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. And with all that money you save, you can head over to BetOnline. They got you covered for the holiday season. More props, odds, and lines than ever before. As football continues its march through the college bowl season and the pro football playoffs, BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. Head to the website and use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season and the beginning of the 2022 season. A fresh year for betting. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports, so don't wait to take advantage of all the new amazing offers available. BetOnline, where the game starts. Stick around. More on this Denver Nuggets win. A road win. Awesome. Let's do it.
This is Locked On Hornets.
They're running their rookies to Greensboro. They're driving them to Greensboro and then driving them back the same day to play in an NBA game. I cannot wait until the Hornets load manage.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Thanks again, by the way, for making Locked On Hornets your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, where we try to do a live show once every week. We've been getting a lot of great action on the chat. So we've been doing those on Friday with David Walker, our Hive Live episodes. So make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. The Hornets beat the Denver Nuggets 115-107. They were down by as many as 19 points in this game, and the margin was 17 heading into winning time. And I know a lot of people were kind of focused on the Christmas break. How are we going to get to the family holiday celebration? So I don't know how many people were watching this game, and I especially don't know how many people were watching this game when we got into the fourth quarter and the Hornets were down 17. I'm sure a lot of you may have given up on the Hornets, but the Hornets didn't give up, and a lot of that had to do with basically some bench wrenches in Ish Smith. His defensive energy and offensive penetration created opportunities early for Kelly Oubre, who was knocking down big shot after big shot. And Kelly Oubre, by the way, no slouch on defense. He was getting blocks and steals late in this game as well. He got the comeback started, and honestly, I think Kelly Oubre kind of got short. Is it short-shifted or short-shrifted? If it's short-shrifted, he got short-shrifted. If it's short-shifted, he got short-shifted, because I was reading a lot of the recaps after this game, and not a lot of them were mentioning Kelly Oubre. A lot of them mentioned Ish Smith because of the crazy plus-minus number for this game. When they inserted him, things changed dramatically at the end of the third quarter. He finished this game with a plus-minus of 27, okay? 27 plus minus, but he only scores 9 points, 4 assists, 2 rebounds, and two, but he had 2 blocks. 2 blocks for Ish Smith. Little tiny baby Ish Smith said, "No, sir, get that out of here." Ish Smith was crazy great in this game, and it doesn't necessarily show up in the box score because he didn't get a ton of run in this one, only 14 minutes, but plus 27. And a lot of that was his defensive peskiness. As I said, he was just faster, stronger, penetrating, getting inside, and then kicking the ball out. And Denver, I don't know, they just didn't want it. They weren't playing defense. They had benched. Mike Malone had removed Jokic from the game. And probably thought he was safe, probably thought he was good. The Hornets have not been playing well lately, especially on the road. Even with their full complement of players, they haven't been playing great defense. So I think if you're Mike Malone, you make that calculation. You say fourth quarter, I'm up 17. I can get a little rest for Jokic here. We're on a back-to-back. Why not? Well, Ish Smith said why not. Also, who said why not? P.J. Washington, who knocked down huge threes late to get them over the hump, and Jalen McDaniels had some absolute yamtastic dunks. I mean, they were Miles Bridgian. I mean, he had one on Jokic. I thought for a second when Jalen McDaniels threw it down on Jokic that the ball hit Jokic's nose because he grabbed his nose, but it was actually Jalen McDaniel doing a little contact, using the arm and the hand and the fist and everything. No call there. Fortunate for the Hornets. But Jalen McDaniels was physical. Ish Smith was physical. Kelly Oubre was physical. P.J. Washington was getting involved defensively as well. I mean, I think the game-sealing play was the play late in this game when they get it to Jokic, and it was clear they were going to feed Jokic to try to get Denver within striking distance. They throw it down to Jokic. PJ extremely physical with him and ties him up just long enough for Ish Smith to get the strip steal and bucket on the other end. And then Ish Smith follows that up with a big 3 of his own. So Ish Smith, 1 of 1 from 3. He doesn't shoot many of them, and he's knocked them down. And look, Ish Smith all season has been a Hornets utility a player, has been a bench wrench, has been someone that James Borrego can insert into the game if they need energy. And he's a veteran. He's played on 12 teams. He's been around the NBA block, and I think it says a lot about Ish Smith that he could be inserted into a game like this where he hasn't gotten a lot of run. Stay ready has been the motto, and Ish Smith has come through and really been sort of the banner player for that motto for the Charlotte Hornets. This is the 7th game the Hornets have won after being down 10 plus points. I don't know if that's a great, I mean, it's awesome that they won those games. I think the Hornets have some things to figure out in terms of getting down big, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that they don't start games well. They actually did start this game particularly well. And that deficit was really accumulated in the end of the first quarter, let them back in the game, and then second quarter into the third quarter, didn't come out with a lot of energy at half. Again, this is another game where the starters not playing particularly well. They've lost a starter now in Miles Bridges and 2 big bench pieces in P.J. Washington and Cody Martin to the protocol. You look at Gordon Hayward, 1 of 10 from the field, 1 of 5 from 3, 6 points, 3 assists, 4 rebounds. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. It's simply not good enough in 30 minutes of play. Miles was 6 of 14, 1 of 7 from 3. When he does return, they need a Miles Bridges that can shoot better from 3. Mason Plumlee was a non-factor offensively, 19 minutes, 3 points, 3 fouls, 6 rebounds. And then Terry Rozier, a bit of an inefficient night, 17 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, did play some important fourth quarter minutes as well, but 5 of 15 from the field. 16 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 steals from LaMelo Ball, so active on the defensive end. You love to see that. 1 block as well, only 3 turnovers to his 4 assists, but 1 of 5 from 3. Couldn't really get it going offensively, but he was cheering on the team from the bench in that fourth quarter as Ish Smith propelled things in this one. As I said, Kelly Oubre huge in this game. Led all Hornets in scoring, 23 points, 4 steals, 4 rebounds, 7 of 15 from the field, 5 of 11 from 3. P.J. Washington, 3 of 4 from 3, 13 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. I mean, yeah, we didn't mention P.J. Washington's passing in this game. He just really did it all. I think there's certainly Miles Bridges plays more minutes and at times has been able to fill up the score sheet, the box score a little bit more than P.J. Washington. But the way the bench has carried the Hornets, I think there's an argument to be made that at least in the short term, until the starters can figure something out, that they may miss P.J. Washington and his contributions a little bit more than Miles Bridges at this point. I'm not saying that PJ is necessarily playing better than Miles, but he's shooting from 3 better. And the Hornets really live and die by the 3 right now. When they shoot well from 3, they give themselves a chance, even through some poor defensive play, and they're going to need a lot of points against the Houston Rockets. Let's talk about that game coming up on the Locked On Hornets podcast. But first, I want to chat about Built Bar. I love Built Bar. I've been eating a lot of them because I've been on the network for a long time and they've been supporting the network for a long time. The holiday season is over, but you can still grab that. It's not really over, right? I mean, you can have Built Bars as a snack for New Year's. Take them to your New Year's party. Why not? Grab the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, or even better than a candy bar, that's Built Bar, filled with so much holiday goodness, rich with decadent flavor, covered in chocolate, but amazingly low in calories, sugar, net carbs, and fat, high in protein. You get the best of both worlds. You get delicious and you get the healthy. It's the season of peace and love. Don't bring up your favorite Built Bar at the family parties, at the New Year's parties, because people are so passionate about their favorite flavor. They'll fight you for it, and things can get out of hand. Cozy up with something warm. It's not really warm in the southeast right now, but it is really warm, I should say. It's not really cold, but when it does get cold, you can cozy up with a little Built Bar into a cup of hot chocolate. That's a Built Bar hack for you right there. Let it melt a little and give your beverage a bit of that Built Bar flavor. Go to Built.com right now. Use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. We'll preview tonight's game against the Houston Rockets coming up on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
This is Locked On Hornets.
Have you ever had that one little bug that's just like, it's not completely out, but it's like kind of dangling in there, and then you try to sniff it back up to go away for good, but it'll keep popping back? That's what I'm going through right now.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Back here on the Locked On Hornets podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen or your first watch every day. The Hornets have an important game coming up tonight against the Houston Rockets. It's a chance for a little redemption. The Hornets lost their first game against Houston earlier this season, 146-143. It was an overtime game, but still they scored a ton of points in regulation as well. And that's the story with these two teams. They're very similar in that way. They score a lot of points offensively, but defensively they struggle a ton. The Houston Rockets will be without several players due to the protocols, including Garrison Matthews, who was, speaking of bench wrenches, who was a bit of a bench wrench himself in that first game against the Hornets. Garrison Matthews knocking down some big shots for the Houston Rockets, but they do have a lot of their big pieces. Christian Wood is due to play along with Eric Gordon, and Alperen Sengun has been really good for them. Sixth man. I mean, he's rookie this year, drafted by the Houston Rockets, and he's played very well. Passes exceptionally. Is a pretty steady double-digit scorer, so they'll have to watch Sengun as well. For the Hornets, again, they're missing Miles Bridges, P.J. Washington, so they'll have to have players like Kelly Oubre step in the void and knock down some shots. Maybe a little JT Thor steps in, maybe even a little James Bouknight, throw a guard out. I mean, you're missing some forwards, but you're also missing Cody Martin, so maybe you just lengthen the rotation. That really hasn't been James Borrego's MO. When players go out, he tends to kind of rally around his veterans and the players that he plays a lot. I think that could mean big minutes tonight for Jalen McDaniels, who certainly earned them after his play against the Denver Nuggets. But we'll just we'll have to see how the rotation shakes itself out. I think big key to the game, honestly, is Gordon Hayward. I mean, he scored 20-plus points in their first matchup, but the Hornets played well offensively across the board in that first matchup. But I think that Gordon Hayward certainly needs a bounce-back game. Hasn't had a great game since their win against San Antonio in San Antonio. That guy needs to get going offensively because it's been a particularly bad stretch for him where, you've even seen Borrego limit the minutes a little bit, and I don't know how much of that is trying to rest him a little bit during that road stretch and how much it was, the fact that he just wasn't performing very well and they needed better and more efficient offensive production. So he looked to some of the bench pieces. But I think this is a game where you need the starting rotation to play a little better. I don't know how many minutes they'll give to Mason. Nick Richards got a few minutes against Denver. So how does he deal with that center rotation and dealing with Christian Wood? In that first matchup, Houston pushed the pace tremendously at the beginning of the game, and the Hornets weren't ready for it. I mean, they were just running, they were getting up and down very quickly and running simple pick and roll plays to get Christian Wood going, and the Hornets simply were not ready to play the Houston Rockets and allowed 40-plus points in the first quarter in that first matchup. So I think another key to the game, first key to the game, Gordon Hayward has to play better. Second key to the game is you have to come in with a defensive mentality from the tip, and that means that the starters have to play well defensively and be ready for what the Houston decides to throw at them. Houston hasn't been playing as well of late. I believe they've 3-7 in their last 10 games. So they've been losing games. They've kind of They started, with that tremendous losing streak, and then the Hornets were their second win in a long winning streak, and now it seems like they've reverted back into a team that is probably going to finish near the bottom of the Western Conference right now, 10-23 on the season. So the Hornets have a huge opportunity. I think this is a tone-setting game. It's difficult. You're missing some players, but so is everyone else. This is a resilient team. This is a deep team. I think this is a game that they should win, and they need to win. You need to rack up the home wins. You get those home wins while you can, because you've got some tough matchups coming up. The Hornets have some matchups against a doubleheader against Milwaukee that's looming. They've got a game against Phoenix coming up, and that's always going to be difficult. You're going to be missing players in that one, so you need to get these wins against the Detroits, against the Washingtons, against the Houstons, against the Pacers, teams that you are either capable of beating or have beaten this season. season. These are all important games. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Locked On Hornets and me at Doug Branson LOH. I tweet around most of these games. This has been a fun show. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Make sure you make your second listen Locked On Bets. It's the number one betting show on the Locked On Network. Get all the betting information that you need so that you're well equipped to head over to Bet Online, one of our fantastic sponsors. All right. Tomorrow, we'll recap this game against Houston. Walker Mail will rejoin me here in the studio. Until then, I'll give you my old sign-off from the Hive Talk Live and early Locked On Hornets days. Go Hornets, go America. Let's swarm Charlotte.